Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to After Maghrib, your favorite podcast. It's amazing to be here. If you haven't already been here before, then make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Spotify or wherever you're listening to us. Today, brothers and sisters, we have a really interesting episode. We are going to be talking a lot about stepping out of your comfort zone, which is something for me personally I'm doing today, because this is the first episode on After Maghrib where I am not joined by Sayyid. Well, actually, it's not the first episode, but it's one of the first episodes without Sayyid Ali, and definitely the first episode where there's only one host. So please bear with me and be patient with me today, because I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, and we're going to be talking about that today. We're also going to be understanding how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to zone in on our lives, to really understand and reflect how far we've come and how to make a change towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's path and his purpose for us. Because of course we see numerous times in the Holy Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards and gives glad tidings to those who strive in his way. So how do we reassess where we are and inshallah where we are going to be headed to? So we have two very special guests today, and they have, like many other guests before, come from around the world. We'll start the husband and wife team. I'll start with my dear brother Ali Alvi. Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing?
Great, thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for coming on, and of course your wife, our dear sister Leidy. How are you doing? Sister Leidy Fatima, right?
Yes,
Lovely
correct.
to have you.
Alhamdulillah, so happy to be here today.
Good to have you on as well. So for those who don't know, Ali, where are you guys from?
I don't even know anymore. I moved around quite a bit, but right now we're coming from Colombia, Medellin, Colombia.
So you guys live in Colombia?
Yeah.
Right, okay, cool. And obviously I know your story. You've lived in Pakistan, you've obviously spent most of your life in the US, in New York, and then obviously you moved to Colombia a couple of years ago. And sister, you are born and raised in Colombia?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. So this is going to be an interesting conversation. I'm looking forward to getting into it. So listen, before we kind of get stuck into your story and a lot of the amazing lessons you guys have learned, I want to ask you, because you're obviously visiting London, sister, your first time. Ali, you've been here once before.
Yeah.
Of course, for my wedding, but yeah, which is nice. So, but what is your relationship like with London so far? So what are the things that you like about London the most?
You want to go ahead?
I think for me, it's like amazing to see a lot of Muslim people out of the street and halal places, halal stores, because in Colombia, we really don't have anything of this. For example, in my city, we have barely 2-3 halal restaurants.
Wow.
So that is too much for the amount of people that we have. So it's amazing to walk off the street and see hijabis, because what I say, in Colombia, nothing of this is happening. So it's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, we have 2,000-3,000 halal food shops on every road.
Yeah, it's like amazing.
Yeah. And obviously the community for you, Ali, obviously you've lived in like a heavy Shia community, strong Shia community, Muslim community in New York and in Washington. How has it been like for you, not even coming to London, but adjusting to moving to Colombia?
It's very different. Growing up in Pakistan, as I was born there, the whole country is Muslim, right? So it's a certain way. Then living in the Washington, D.C. area, moving to New York, living there for 9 years. There's Muslims everywhere. You can find halal. But then moving to Colombia, it's completely different. I think when I got there, we had maybe 4 or 5 Shia people total in a city of 3 million people. Definitely different, right? Because it's not like we can find halal or other Muslims around. It's very difficult. And I had to adjust to it. I think I've adjusted okay.
Yeah.
And then coming back here now, it feels great just to be able to walk down the street, like she mentioned. That just walking down the street, we find so many halal restaurants, which when we're living in it, we take it for granted. But when we're away from it, we realize what we have is, really awesome to be able to just walk down the street, go into any restaurant almost, and it's halal.
Yeah, 100% you're right. So what on earth is a Pakistani American doing in Colombia? How did you end up in Colombia? And sorry, bro. And if you can tell people, because obviously for those who don't know, Ali and I go back a while. Ali's known me since I was a lot younger, and we used to work together in Who is Hussein, which is an incredible organization which spread awareness about Imam al-Hussein. And you definitely took that literally, that goal of spreading the message of Imam Hussein literally. And obviously I learned a lot from you. But 3 years ago, you called me and you said, well, I'm gonna make a decision. I'm gonna make a change in my life.
Yeah.
How did you end up, and why did you go to Colombia of all places?
It's a long story. You ready? You have your tea, popcorn?
Yeah.
Well, it started about 5 years ago. I was going to get some dental work done. And a friend of mine in New York said, hey, I'll set you up with my family dentist in Colombia, and they'll take care of you. It'll be a lot cheaper because obviously in New York or London, well, actually you guys have like free healthcare, but at least in the US, we have to pay out of pocket for a lot of things. So I said, okay, fine, let's go. I had never been there. I went there for my dental, and then I went to a different city for my eyes, and then I started traveling around a little bit, went back a few times. And one time I was there, I went to a city called Medellin, or a lot of people call it Medellin because there's two L's, but they're pronounced as a J. So in Medellin, I was looking for a mosque to go pray. I found a mosque. I went in to pray, and there was a gentleman. He was a little bit older, and he just started rattling off like a lot of anti-Shia rhetoric. And I didn't really like it, but he didn't realize that I was actually Shia until he saw me praying. After I finished praying, he said, yeah, but brother, we're all brothers. I was like, yeah, we're all brothers, but this is what you're teaching everyone, right? And you're only saying that now that you see me, that I'm Muslim, that I'm Shia. And so that happened. I left. A day later, I was leaving, and I was on a flight. I was about to get on the flight, and I was talking to a friend. And I was like, this is what happened. This is what transpired, and someone needs to do something about it. How many times does it happen when we see something, we're like, someone needs to do something?
Honestly.
But right then I had this idea, why not me? Because I'm here right now. I don't know anyone else that's going to go to Colombia and have a similar experience and is going to want to do something about it. So that's what triggered. There are a couple of stories behind it. If you want, I'll give you more details about that, of how I ended up in that sense. But then I came back to New York. I was going to go back in Medellin, stay there for a couple of weeks, see if I like it. But COVID hit, and then I was stuck in my apartment alone for 3 months in Manhattan, no human contact. And after that, as soon as they opened up in Colombia, they opened in September, October, I was there.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. And of course, that's where you met Sister Leidy Fatima as well. And obviously, you for those who don't know, well, I'm sure most people won't, but you are a revert who joined Islam 13 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So you were, and then of course, obviously you're Shia as well. So you actually were one of the few Shias in Medellin before Ali came there. How this is like, obviously when we talked about this before filming, this was eye-opening for me. But how did you discover Islam in the first place? And why did you marry this guy of all people? I'm joking, bro. I'm joking. No, I mean, when your journey and whatnot, and was it frightening for you to the journey and the change?
Well, we kind of start like, I discovered Islam through 9/11.
Through 9/11?
Yes. My sister was the first in the family who get like attention and curious about what happened, what religion is that. So she started researching, and she found like Islam is totally opposite that the news or the social media show us. So we start like get into the Islam, and we found like, oh my God, this is the true, because I was born like Catholic whole life, going to the church and whatever, but it was, you took the religion more like is a history, is the past that passed like many years ago, and that's it. But Islam shows like a real meaning of life, real meaning of God. What do you have to do to get the paradise, to do something really for Allah, for God, not just for your life. It's like a lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's what I want to say. So I start learning the Sunni Islam because this is most common in Colombia, especially in my city. But after some years, through my brother-in-law, he's Shia, we start to listen and hearing his history about Muharram, about the history of the Imam Ali, the Imam Hussein. So we're like, what is all this? Because before we never heard about it. So we start learning about Shia. And after I said, this has to be the correct way because it's too much behind. And nobody never explained us about it.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how people like. See, this is the thing. I mean, for someone like me, and I think for a lot of us at home, we've been born and raised in the same city, and we only know one thing, one culture, maybe one mentality. And you come to a point in your life, maybe you're 18, maybe you're 25, but there comes a point when you start to think and reflect, to think, what am I doing? How am I acting in life? Because when you reverted, you would have been young, you would have been, working or studying, and you would have friends. And then there came a point where you, for example, you decided to wear the hijab. And, to think that, for example, a native lady in Colombia, a native woman who chooses to wear the hijab and just carry on with life.
And that is a real challenge because when I decided to wear the hijab, I was like, we start like a step by step. I started dressing up like modesty. I stopped eating like pork or drink alcohol or something. And after I was like, if I want to please Allah, totally, I have to do everything what he says, what he told us to do.
Yeah.
So one day I woke up and I told my mom, like, I think I'm ready to wear the hijab. And she said, that is up to you.
MashaAllah.
So I started wearing the hijab. I was living out of the country like for 3 years. When I came back, my friends and the people start see me wearing the hijab and they say, oh no, you can like get a job like that with that piece of cloth, so you must take it off. And I say, no, I won't do it because this is non-negotiable. This is to please Allah, not to please the world. So if I gonna get a job, I will get it because Allah provide me everything. All of the provision come from Allah, so I don't gonna take off my hijab. And as soon as I say that, like 1 month, 2 months after, I got a job. And since that, I had like 3 different jobs. And in all my interview, that is my only request. Can I wear my hijab? That's it. And alhamdulillah, here I am.
Alhamdulillah. What are your thoughts?
I think a lot of times we find excuses of not doing something. And we end up lying to ourselves or really just cheating ourselves or souls.
Yeah.
Because of our friends or family members, society. But we're not really going to be questioned by our friends in our grave.
Exactly.
We're not going to be questioned by our family or society on why we did something, why we didn't. We're going to be questioned by God. And if he's given us a clear outline of what to do and how to live life, I mean, maybe we can lie to ourselves, but how are we going to lie to God?
And Allah's given us that agency, that ability to be free thinkers. 300 times in the Holy Quran, Allah tells you, reflect, think. And in early Islam, in early Sunni Islam, or in some versions of Islam at the beginning, this notion of free thought, or to criticize or analyze the teachings and to analyze what you're doing, where you're going, was suppressed, unfortunately. But we see, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, a community in general is going in a good direction. But the founders of all of our communities was someone who took initiative.
Yeah.
My heritage, for example, I am for your benefit, sister, because you don't know, and I know everyone at home is bored of me saying this, but I'm from a tribe called the Khojas, and we are maybe around the world 300,000. We have been Muslim for 200 years, and that was because 200 years ago, someone made a decision to become a Muslim. Before that, our lineage, we were all Hindus, you know, and because someone made that decision to you know, embrace Islam, 200 years later, there's a massive community around the world, and we have beautiful children who are named Ali and Hassan and Hussein and Fatima and
Ahmed.
You know, and Ahmed. I hope so. I said beautiful children. So, no, alhamdulillah. But that's something, you know, which it always comes to my mind, and Allah tells us again in the Holy Quran about tawakkul and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But look, I really want to ask you, sister, especially if you don't mind, and Ali, I know I would ask you, but you don't wear the hijab. So, but you know, there's a lot of ladies and a lot of women and girls in London or in the West, anywhere in the world really, who want to wear the hijab, who are, you know, they are Muslim, they love Allah, but they're frightened or they're scared, and they may even live in a place like London, or maybe not, but they may live in a place where there are more Muslims than in Colombia, for example. But they're scared, you know, for example, or they are worried that they will lose their job, like you said, or worried that people will look at them differently. What message do you have, or what do you want to say to those girls who are feeling frightened, or even the girls who wear hijab but are thinking about taking it off?
I think the most important is something that we believe in God, but we really trust God, because at the end of the day, if we really trust Allah, He will make easy whatever for us.
Percent.
So I think that is my main message for the people who is struggling about hijab, because I know it's difficult to see, because we are human beings and we care so much about what other people gonna think or gonna say about us.
Yeah.
But it's what my husband say. What Allah gonna think, what Allah gonna say. He's the only who gonna judge us.
How do we know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like if Allah's pleased? So for example, you went on, both of you in fact made a huge change in your life, a huge change, and two different changes. You know, if neither of you made that change, then you would have never met, you know. So subhanallah, you both were, you know, you made the right decisions and you came across each other. How do you know if you've made the right decision? Is there ever a way to know?
I think it depends on the person and how close you are with Allah, how honest you are with God and yourself. Sometimes you just have to look in the mirror and have a conversation with yourself to see who really you are.
Yeah.
There are ways, as God says, like He shows you signs.
Yeah.
So definitely there are ways that we can tell. You were talking about, and it's, I guess, like really part of a journey, because we're all in different parts of our life, spiritually and physically, as well as financially, or whichever way. So you mentioned earlier, if someone's 18 or someone is 25, we hear different things, whether it's during majlis or during a conversation with our friends, or you know, you're watching film or something, you see something, and sometimes they stand out. For example, I remember one of the things that really stuck out to me. I was listening to a majlis at a Dar al-Jafia in Maryland, and the sheikh said that, listen, every year we come here, and he says that we cry, we do matam, and we tell Imam Hussein alayhi salam that if we were there, we would be there to defend him, and we would help in his mission to help him. And he said that on that day when Imam Hussein said, who is there to help me? Who really was he talking to? Yeah. Who really was he talking to? Because Hazrat Abbas was gone, Ali Akbar's gone, Qasim's gone, everyone is gone.
Yeah.
So the sheikh said that he was really talking to the generations to come. If you're saying that, like, oh, I wish I was there to help his mission, what are you doing today to help his mission? So that was something that stuck out for me and was in the back of my head for a long time. And because of those small, I guess this wasn't as small, but like because of different reflections, they stay in the back of your mind. And then eventually there will come a point in life where you have to make a decision based on the different things that we've learned, different reflections we've had. And once we make that decision, then we start to see our life change. And then we start to realize whether God's actually happy with us or not. And then we make our life a lot more God-centric as opposed to materialistic-centric.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, sometimes when you make that change and you realize that even if it was something you're fearful of, something you're scared of, actually it was good for you.
Yeah.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, He says, perhaps you hate something and it's good, for you, and perhaps you love something and it's bad for you. And we never know about true perspective, and that level of basira and knowledge and ilm al-ghayb, that is not for us. You know, that's for the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and that level of knowledge. And no one is able to tell. Even the most wise people won't be able to tell the end of all tales.
Yeah.
You know, this is something which we sometimes assume. We will assume that if we stay here and we stay with these people, then we will be in good hands. And do you know what I mean? And sometimes we need to be driven and be comfortable in stepping outside of the box as well. But when you think about your purpose, and you think about, because you left the USA and you said, I want to bring the name of Imam Hussein alayhi salam to a part of the world where no one has heard it. And I want to bring people towards Walaya of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam in a way where no one has heard it, in a place where no one has heard the name Ali Waliullah. And that is beautiful to us. You know, we are here in the largest Shia community in the West. And you know, I then realized, for someone like me, and my mosque is 10,000 people, for example. And mashallah, in 3 years, you went from 4 or 5 Muslims, Shia, to now you told me 20, 25?
Yeah, about 25, sometimes 30, depending on...
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Mashallah.
Yeah.
Mashallah. And that is quality over quantity, because that's when you know you are doing something of high quality. Doesn't matter if you have loads, hundreds, thousands of people, but you don't mean it, and they don't have love in what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you're saying like announcing, or not announcing, but like getting people to know the name of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I remember this one brother, he would go to the Sunni mosque before, and I think it was this Muharram, after one of the majlises, or was it last? I think it was this Muharram. After one of the majlises, he stands up in the crowd and he says, listen, I'm sorry to disturb you, but I have something to say. Yeah. And I was like, oh no, what's he going to tell him? What does he know about me?
I've seen this before.
So he says that I want to say that I've been Muslim for, I think, 10 years or however long he mentioned. Yeah. And he said that I'm sorry that I've been Sunni all my life of being Muslim. I just didn't know any better, and I didn't know about Imam Hussein, and I didn't know about Karbala.
Wow.
So what type of guts does it take for someone to stand up in 30 people and say that, one? And two, how sincere is this man that he's open about it and honest about it, that, hey, I just didn't know. Now I know, and I know this is the truth.
And sometimes when you know, there's always like a chain reaction in these things. Like, I would have never thought that I remember when I first joined Who is Hussein, my brother was the one who told me 10 years ago. He's like, hey, Ahmed, do you want to do something? He saw me, I was like wasting time playing video games. You know, so do you want to do something to help? I was like, oh, well, yeah, what can I do? He said, I want you to join this team and work with this brother, our dear brother Muntadhar. And I never knew that decision, that I said yes to my brother. And my brother would then say, okay, I want you to join Who is Hussein. But I would get married because of that yes. Yeah. That I would meet friends like you guys. And that so many things were a chain reaction, a result of an initial small step, you know, like a domino effect that comes afterwards. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ankabut, I saw the verse earlier. Yeah, in terms of striving for Allah, the jihad and nafs, you know, you work towards righteousness, you work towards the tazkiyat and nafs, the purification of your soul. Allah says in the Holy Quran, those who strive for us, who work for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will surely guide them to our ways. Allah says, don't worry. Don't worry about if you'll achieve it, if you'll make it happen. Just try your best.
Exactly.
And to me, leave the rest.
Yeah.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in so many ways. Have you been, when you think about when you look back on your journey, sister, and you look at like the change and the decisions, the hard yeses, the hard decisions you've made to say yes or no to things, has it been worth it?
Of course, totally. Totally is worth it, because sometimes you stop to reflect, how was my life before?
Yeah.
And how much has been changing for all these years. And subhanallah, that is amazing how your life changed, your mood, that you say you leave the comfort zone
Yes.
to discover something new, because basically this is new for us, and you feel really, really changes in your life,
Yeah.
and amazing changes.
Yeah. I don't know what you think, Ali, but I feel like there's a big gap in the generation right now, especially for those who are in their early 20s or mid-late 20s, when it comes to identifying their own purpose. What do I do in life? My father and my mother want me to become this job, want me to be a doctor or a lawyer, and I have pressure to get married young, and I have to provide for my wife, or I have to serve my husband, for example. And there's pressure and expectation, and you know you should be more religious, but you don't care. You try, but you don't want to push yourself too hard. And there's a bit of a crisis which is happening with that age group. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that comes from, in a lot of ways, in what we watch and what we listen to.
That's
Right?
not true.
Huh?
That's really true. Yeah.
I think so. That's not true.
No. That's so true. Yeah. Before I get cancelled.
For example, Netflix series, if that's what you watch, or anything on YouTube, or maybe you're listening to music. Yes, that would be better to watch, right? Or if people listen to music, think about what the lyrics are. Because so many times people memorize the lyrics, but they don't memorize the Quran, or they don't memorize the Hadith. And with the lyrics, a lot of times, especially these days, it's not very Islamic, I guess, right?
No, that's an understatement.
And those things, whether it's music or the programs we're watching, it's making us turn into those type of people, but they're not us, right? They're not Shia, they're not Muslim, and they have a different outlook on life than what we have. And if we start following someone that has a different outlook than what we have, eventually what's going to happen is we're going to become that way. So what happens, I think, is that from home and from the masjid, we have a certain mindset. But then when we see other things outside, we have a different mindset. And then the people get caught in between, not knowing which way to turn to. And I think you should turn to after Maghrib, obviously.
Subscribe.
And turn to God in reality. And of all the people, like in life, everything is temporary, whether it's your friends, your clothes, where you live, where you go to school, your family members, people pass away, people get married, divorced, your circle of friends changes. I'm pretty sure if you're 28, you're not wearing the same clothes you're wearing at 8.
Yeah,
right?
I hope not.
Hope not, right? So just like that, everything changes all the time.
Yeah.
And the one constant is God. Allah is the only constant. So why not get really close and good with God and let everything else happen? Because if your best friend is someone that looks out for you and they're a human being, but if you make God your best friend, God has all the power to do everything.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Yeah,
I fully agree. And sometimes when you're in the search for that answer and you're looking for direction, you're looking for purpose and guidance, sometimes it's also about the questions you're asking. They say there's a hadith, it says that a good question is nusful jawab. A good question is half of the answer. You ask the right question and you'll get the answer you're looking for. You ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for direction, for guidance, then you're more likely to find it. And when you're in a specific search for something, like in your case, for example, sister, in the search for Islam, and on your path from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah to becoming Shia, in those 4 years where you were Sunni and you learned about Islam and you learned and you asked and you researched and you discover and you ask the right questions and it leads you to the right path. Amir al-Mu'mineen said to his companions, he said, ask me before I die, before I go out of this world. A guy comes to him and says, okay, how many hairs are on my head? Now, what sort of stupidity brings someone to do that? It's a bad question, so you won't be able to benefit the most, you know. So I think it's another thing for us to think about as well. Absolutely. Yeah. Of course, for anyone who's new to Islam and who's on the journey of becoming a Riva and learning more about Islam, it's a new culture, it's a new language, it's a new community.
New everything.
Everything is new. Yes. Is that, like, you know, difficult for you? And not just that, I mean, what words of encouragement, what words of support can you give to people who are maybe new Muslims or who are looking to Islam now and researching Islam, to let them know that it's okay and you don't have to be expert in Arabic language, or, for example, you don't have to know everything on day one?
I think if you feel and you know you are doing like something and you are behaving like the correct way to please Allah, everything, the rest is like okay.
Yeah.
You don't need to be expert. You don't need to speak Arabic or something. That is, for example, that remind me, my father, he became Muslim like some months ago.
Yeah.
He's like, at home, he has like the Bible, like 2-3 different types of Bible, and the Quran, and he reads everything. And he start to like compare this and this, if they say the same or something different, and he asks questions. He's so curious about it. So that when he want to become Muslim, but he say, no, but I don't speak Arabic. I don't know how to pray in Arabic. No, I can't do that. I say, no, don't worry about it.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yes, first thing, you can do it in Spanish. You can learn it in Spanish. It's okay. But if it's better if you do it in Arabic, because it's the first language. So you will do it like step by step. Don't worry about it. And now he's doing that.
MashaAllah.
We do that also. I do that. So if you are doing something to please Allah, to go in the correct way, the things will come out like easily.
Yeah, I don't think you have to know everything 100% of how everything works, as long as there's, you know, sufficient evidence for you to believe and then start, right? For example, I went to Colombia. All I knew how to say was, hi, how are you? I didn't know anyone there. I didn't speak the language. I didn't even know where I was going to stay. I literally stayed in a hotel for 2 weeks until I found an Airbnb. So, but I knew my purpose of what I wanted to go and do there. And I started with 4 or 5 people coming to my apartment on Thursday night program.
Yeah.
Then that grew to 6, 7, 10, 15, 20 people. Eventually we have a spiritual center. We call it the Spiritual Learning Center, because in Colombia, if we go in there, say, for example, Imam Ali Mosque or something.
Yeah. The door of Khaybar.
Yeah. It'll be more of a deterrent, because our target market is people that are actually want spirituality, but don't necessarily want to go to church because they're so tired of church, they don't get answers.
In all the countries nowadays, it's the same thing. The people is avoiding like religion.
Mainstream religion, yeah.
Yes.
So we started
People are looking for a feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we started the Spiritual Learning Center, and we have people that come that are Catholic, Christian, the Buddhist, like I think one person was Goth. She came in like for a while, and Muslims, Sunnis, and Shia. So it's more about common ground of what we can bring together in that sense. But I started with just going there and telling God, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, but this is my purpose. This is what I want to do. So help me out.
Yeah.
Right. So one thing after another has led us to have a community of 30 or so people, 25, 30 people.
And people think that it's a different religion or different God or something. They say, oh, you're God. And finally, after we start talking, they realize that it's
Same
only one God for everybody. Call however you want, but it's only one God. So
Yeah. And that's just start, right? And figure it out. It's not like there's a guidebook, maybe there is, of how to go to Colombia and start a spiritual learning center to talk to people about Imam Hussein alayhi salam at the Ahl al-Bayt.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a guidebook. If there is, somebody please help me with it,
Yeah, maybe.
because we're still trying to figure it out. But we know we're in the right direction because of the numerous stories that we have, right? We have, for example, there was a guy that used to work for me. He was also a priest, and he was working as well. And he said to me one day, "Why are you always so calm, and where do you leave at 12 o'clock?" Because I would leave to go pray.
Oh, I see.
And I was like, "I'll show you tomorrow." So the next day I took him with us, and we started to pray, and he said, "Can I join?"
Yeah.
So after we finished praying, even though he didn't understand Arabic, he followed suit with us with how we were praying.
MashaAllah.
Afterward, he started crying.
No way.
I was like, "Are you okay? What's going on?" He's like, "I've never felt something like this."
That's crazy.
mashallah.
And we take it for granted. Yeah, I'll pray in like a couple hours, right? So he says, "I've never felt something like this." And we started talking and discussing. And then that Thursday, he came to the Thursday night program. And I remember he was telling me like, "Oh no, Ali, you're wrong. Jesus is God. You don't know what you're talking about." And I gave him some verses from the Quran. He started reading, from the Bible. He read those. A few weeks later, he says, "I need to speak to you outside." I was like, "Okay, what's going on?" He's like, "Listen, I read the Bible verses you told me about. And I realize now that Jesus is not God." I was like, "Yeah, now read these other verses." So I gave him some other verses. A week or so later, he calls me back. He says, "Yeah, we need to meet again." I was like, "Okay." He says that I realized that there's another prophet after Jesus. And I was like, "Who do you think that is?" And he says, "The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him."
Sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So he says to me that now he cannot continue preaching at the churches because his words, they lied to us and they hid the truth from us. So how can I preach something that I know is no longer true? That next Thursday he comes with his wife and his children, take the shahada.
MashaAllah.
So with the idea of going to Colombia to tell people about Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we have people like him who are priest and Christian all their life. And they realize there's more to it. For example, my assistant, what we would do is there's a place called Comuna 13 in Medellin. There were a lot of gangs and drugs activities there. And then eventually the government went in and cleaned it up. And it's very touristic now because they put a lot of graffiti all over the walls. And we were lucky enough that we put up 3 different quotes from Imam Hussein alayhi salam.
Nice.
On 3 different murals. No other organization had the ability to do that or the opportunity to do that. Anyway, there I would go every Wednesday with my assistant. We would talk about personal development, how to set up a business, things like that, more about business. And I was waiting for them to ask me one day, "Who are you and why are you here?" And eventually, I think about 2 months later, they asked me. I was like, "Thank God, I've been waiting for this." So then I was able to discuss with them that, I was born in Pakistan. This is my religion, so on and so forth. So then it took a whole turn and we started talking about religion for the next 2 or 3 months. And comparing the Bible, comparing the Quran, talking about Prophet Isa, Jesus, and so on. And then we had people that started coming from there to the center, to the programs. And in doing that, because my assistant, who's Colombian, was translating for me, she started questioning, and eventually she became Muslim.
MashaAllah.
So, alhamdulillah, slowly it's building up in that way. And again, going back to the fact that if I never took that risk to leave New York and go to a country where I don't speak the language, I don't know anyone. I'm not saying you should absolutely do that, but but that's something I decided to do because I felt the need that I had to do something about something that I saw was not right. For example, the gentleman that was speaking anti Shia rhetoric.
Yeah.
So if I had never done that, she wouldn't be sitting here, right? I wouldn't be married.
Yes.
My assistant, the other guy that works for me, my attorney, and her father, and all these other people who became Shia would have never heard about it.
MashaAllah.
So just like you were saying, your Khoja and someone became
Domino
Muslim.
effect, bro.
So I think
Yeah.
in the next coming years, inshallah, the same thing happens in Colombia. As a matter of fact, last year we were able to bring 3 people for Arba'een, for the Arba'een walk.
Wow.
And it was amazing for them. I think you were one of them.
Yes, I
If you want to tell your story.
Yeah.
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 That is, oh my God, that is really like a dream, because I never like think, and I never thought that I will be in that place, and the feeling. It's okay to travel. It's okay to know another countries. For example, London is one of my dreams to know. And it was like, oh my God, it's really good. And I telling you guys that I feel like in a movie. But going to Karbala, oh my God, it's totally different. The connection, everything you feel like spiritually, like mentally, like even though like physically, everything changed. And you feel like, oh my God, I was missing this for all these years. So
Can I ask, because you are both like mashallah, like a power couple, and I really mean that, because you became Shia before you met Ali, and you were strong in your faith and certain in your faith before you guys had a community and you had the spiritual learning center, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you a community, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you a community.
Yeah.
And he gave you a family and a wife and you know, people around you who love and care for each other, and that's something so beautiful. And I think every human deep inside us, you know, ourselves, we crave that. Like, we crave the affection, we crave the love, and people will look for that affection and love through anything, through material things and cars and phones and you know, other relationships and things like that. But you won't find that there. You find it through something which is much deeper than that. You know, you find it through something which transcends a physical form. You know, something which is in so many ways spiritual and emotional and sentimental, and these things are God-given. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives rizq, and the rizq that Allah gives is more than the wealth he gives us and more than the food and the clothes he gives us. One of my very good friends and a dear brother of mine told me the other day, and it's emotional for me. He's leaving the UK. He's moving out of the UK, and we've only known each other for maybe 2 years, okay? Because our wives were friends, and I've become very close to him in the last maybe 6 months. Very close. Like, I now look at him as an older brother. In the beginning, he was like, yeah, my wife's friend's husband. You know, a nice brother, but he's an acquaintance.
Yeah.
But like, you know, mashallah, I got to see him more, and now I look at him, I think he's an example to me. You know, I look at him, I learn about how to be a good father, how to be a good Muslim. And he told me the other day, he said, Ahmed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives rizq through friendship as well, through relationships. Don't just think of it as wealth. Because, you know, in this society where to survive, let's say in a city like London, any household is spending at least £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 a month, you know, or maybe $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month to survive, to have a home, to feed your children, you know. So a lot of us pray for rizq. We pray for, Ya Allah, give me sustenance, you know. Allah gives you sustenance in his own way, at his own time. By his own decree and choice. Khalas.
Exactly. You
You have no say in it in terms of how it's given to you. But you raise your hand, you make the dua, Allah will give that to us, and it could be today or any other day or never. But that's Allah's wish, and how He chooses to send that mercy down on us is His choice as well. And one of those, like I said, the key thing is when it comes to relationships, and this has been a change in my mentality in the last few weeks since the brother mentioned it to me, is that I care a lot about my friends. I care about you guys. I care about Amir Sadiq behind the camera as my brother, and I love him. And, you know, like, friends are few. They're like diamonds, you know, and pearls. They are rare and they're valuable. And when you have a good friend, you hold on to them.
Yeah.
Someone who you love, someone who you care about, someone who will look after you, protect you. And for you guys, mashallah, friendship is one level and marriage is another. And the Quran says that your spouse is like a clothing for you. They shroud you, they guard you, they embrace you, they dignify you, and they adorn you with beauty and you know, all of these adornments. So I think it's
Half of your deen also.
part of half of your deen. There you go. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's so beautiful to see like how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you both, and in such a beautiful way as well. And now you are helping others find their purpose.
Yeah.
You're helping people understand that, you know, what is their place meant to be in life, and how are they meant to find haqq and, you know, truth and peace, because I think that's ultimately what we all want,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times I think we feel lost
Yeah.
or uncertain about what we should do. I
But
think
we
it's-
need a little push.
yeah, we need a little push, right?
That's
very
it.
true.
But also I think we should have whatever goal that we have in mind that we want to do, obviously as long as it's halal, and just step forward and do it. You're probably going to fall on your face once, twice, 3 times, it doesn't matter. How many times do you get back up and keep going? And whether you're here in London or, you know, with us in Colombia, Medellin, or New York, wherever, it doesn't matter where you are, because God is everywhere. Allah is everywhere. So whatever goal you have, go for it. Don't wait. And make God your friend, because he's the one that's going to guide you through it. Don't worry about the society. Don't worry about your friends. I think we worry too much about what our friends or family are going to say. For example, when I moved to Colombia, people were like, "Oh, why are you going there? There's all these like drug cartel and this and that." And I was like, I'm going there for this purpose. There might,
By the way, have you seen Narcos?
yes.
And your friend who is in Narcos
Yeah.
is a Shia as well.
He's a Shia also, yeah.
There you go.
He's actually a Shia from Colombia.
Mashallah.
He was born Shia because his father and his uncle, they were converts from the 80s or so, or maybe
crazy.
a little bit before that. But he lives in New York now. But yeah, just take the step forward, because you always have Allah there to guide you and help you and sustain you, because it's not like only in London will you make this money. No, maybe you go somewhere else. For example, if you have a remote job, you can go to a different country that you want to make a positive change in, work your remote job from there, and most likely you won't need to make as much money, because it probably costs a lot less to live there. And with the savings that you have, you could probably, you know, have some positive change for the society and the community there, whether they're Muslim or not. And you know, they see that you're Muslim, and you can be the example that they see as what Islam is, as opposed to the example that they see on social media or in like movies of what Islam is.
Wow. Anything to add, sister? Anything you want to say?
No, I think like I was thinking, well, while you were saying that, like when I became Muslim, I start like losing friends, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? But finally, you realize that who really is your friend. So if I have to be alone, I will be alone. I have God, so I don't need anything else.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah. I think that's an inspiration to all of us.
And it's not her just saying it; she's really
I'm
that
not
way.
surprised. I mean, like you guys, like we said, people in the West are discriminated, and we have horrible Islamophobia here. And this is one of the most diverse countries in the world, you know. And people suffer here, suffer Islamophobic incidents here, and people who are racist and people who hate Muslims, and we have, but even here, where you have so much Islam in this country. I mean, we were mentioning the other day in London, you have over 30 Shia centers just in this city alone, and each Shia center is hundreds or thousands of people, you know. So we have so many, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. But I can't imagine in somewhere like in Colombia or in any other remote part of the world, in Far East Asia or in parts of New Zealand or Australia or parts of like Alaska or anywhere, like, you know, these very remote areas or very dominated Catholic areas or Hindu country, or like it might be a Buddhist land or something, a place where it's just dominated by a specific religion, and you enter into that land as a lady with a hijab on her head and say, I am Colombian, I was born here, but I am a Muslim and I accept it, and you can take me or you can leave me and I don't mind.
No, and sometimes we don't do like things or changes because we feel afraid too. But for example, it's normal that people ask me like, oh, are you wearing hijab? How they treat you in Colombia? Because we don't have that culture there. So it's totally funny because when you are on the street, most of the people are like, oh, you look so pretty like that. Oh, why are you wearing that? Instead of say, I think in the years that I have been Muslim, just one or two or three people have telling me like, oh, you're terrorist. That's it. But the rest of the people are more curious about it. So that is like a door that we have to make dawah.
Yep.
To explain why we wear the hijab, why we became Muslim, why we practice the religion.
It's funny, on the flight here, the lady that was sitting next to her thought that she was Muslim, Pakistani, something, and I was Colombian.
Roles reversed.
Yeah.
Wow, mashallah. But that's a good point, and that sometimes you doing that thing in front of people, and the way you encouraged him to pray with you as well, and people, you know, I was in the office the other day, and we have a brother who is a good friend of mine, and he works in the same building as I do, and he was praying, you know, he was about to do wudu, and I said, bro, there's a private bathroom here where I do wudu. You can use it if you want, because there's a code on the door. So I said, I'll give you the code, you can do wudu in here. It's clean, no one uses it, it's just me and the other Muslims. He said, no, I want to do the wudu in the kitchen. I said, why? He said, because I want people to see what I'm doing. I said, wow. He said, yeah, sometimes people ask me, what are you doing? Why are you washing your hands and your feet? And you know, when you're about to pray or you're in the office and it's 1 o'clock on a Wednesday. Yeah. You know, so he and you guys make a very good point that sometimes you have to be unapologetic. You have to be brave. You have to step out of your comfort zone, because without that, there's no growth ultimately. And what are we if we're not growing in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Like we said in the Holy Quran, Allah tells us, strive in the way of Allah and Allah will reward you and make that path easy and visible for us. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's been an incredible discussion. I just want to ask you guys 1 or 2 last questions. For those who look, I'm sure that I'm going to talk to everyone at home. Okay, so if you're listening or you're watching on YouTube, first thing, subscribe. Okay, please. If you're enjoying this content, make sure you subscribe. Trying to get to 8 million subscribers, like I said last week. So I'm joking. But no, listen, guys, make sure you subscribe. But more so, if you feel like I do passionately and strongly that my brother and my sister here are doing incredible work in their community in Colombia, where in 2 or 3 years they have brought 20 people towards the path of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam, and we need to support them. Okay, and this is not like a sponsored episode or anything like that, so they're not paying us to promote this. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I've seen the messages that Ali's put together, and he's made reports and he's made campaign pages and all sorts of things to try and seek funding specifically. And in 2 or 3 years, if you don't mind me saying how much, he's raised, mashallah, an incredible, but not enough, about $6,000 or $7,000, which is definitely not enough. Definitely not enough. And we're talking about the establishment of a Shia community here, which is so important, and a community which is independent of politicization and independent of any kind of strings attached or any exclusions. This is a community which is encouraging and allowing everyone and anyone to come and learn about Islam in a healthy and safe environment, not health and safe environment, and an environment which allows a conversation to prosper. So guys, I really want you to support their work. How can people learn more, support, follow you? Do you guys have a page? Is there people where people can, a place where people can support your work?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for that, because I wasn't expecting that.
Sure you went. I'll take my check after. Yeah.
But yeah, we have a website. We also have a Instagram page.
I will put the link in the bio as well.
Yeah, let's do that. Let me see if I can find the actual
Because it's in Spanish.
It's in Spanish.
Yes.
So it's spelled out Centro, CENTRO,
Yeah.
and then espiritual, spiritual, ESPIRITUAL.CO.
Wow.
For Colombia.
I think we'll put it in the bio.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
gonna have to go in the bio, and then
How'd you say the whole thing?
Centro Espiritual, but that's just the website. And also we'll do the Instagram page. Also, probably is better off in the bio.
Yeah. And what would you like people to help you with, and where will their support go?
Really, it just goes towards the center, the rent, the different programs that we do. As a matter of fact, just to give you a little more insight about the community, most of the people in Colombia don't make more than maybe $500 or $700, $800 in a whole month.
Wow.
And they don't have too much money there. As a matter of fact, some of the people that come, actually quite a few of them, we have to pay their transportation to come back and forth.
Wow.
Because they just don't have it. One guy literally just washes cars for a living. And the other people, they live in very poor areas as well. And sometimes we're even giving, not sometimes, every few months, we give donations to them full of rice and lentils and different items in a bag for groceries for a month or so, or 2 months that they can last with, to help them out. So the money goes directly towards that, towards rent, towards transportation for them to come and go, and any other events that we hold there.
Just keeps you going.
Yeah.
We share food like every Thursday program.
Yeah.
We share like dinner or something. So
Yeah.
That's amazing. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always bless you guys. I really pray, and I've followed the journey from the beginning. And just to see how it's grown and succeeded is amazing. But it's not at the end of your story. In fact, inshallah, it's only at the beginning. And hopefully, you told me 2 days ago, you're like, you could see yourself living in Colombia for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan. Inshallah, we can continue growing the community and get it to a place. We were walking down the street earlier, and I was telling her, wouldn't it be amazing that we can have halal restaurants all around Colombia like this? And that's just for halal restaurants, but wouldn't it be amazing if we can see
hijabis
and the
stores, everything.
Yeah, and
masjid, because we don't
masjids,
really have like masjids
very
over
true.
there. So oh my gosh.
Inshallah. And that community is developing with your support. So yeah, inshallah, we pray for that, guys. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here. It really means a lot to me on a personal level.
Thank
And
you.
obviously, I'm sure viewers at home will agree, everyone listening, that this has been like an eye-opening episode. I've learned a lot. I really feel emotional as well to hear about growth and successes of communities which are smaller but succeeding. And I really mean that, because these are communities which are pure in their nature and sincere in their goal. So we have a responsibility to support them, and that could be through material, it could be through resources, information. If we have Spanish speakers who are in the West, who feel that they could support and they could provide material, they could do translation work, that these kind of things are important, because there is a growing community in Colombia here, and that is thanks to Sister Leidy Fatima and our dear brother Sayyid Ali. And because of them, we're able to get to a point where we're having this discussion today. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So yeah, thank you both again so much.
thank you so much for having us. I don't think it's because of me. I just wanted to add that. I think I'm just lucky and honored to be able to do this, because it could have been anyone. God could have picked anybody. So I don't think it's me. I'm just happy that he's using me as a tool.
Ahsan. That's a beautiful way to look at it. Ahsantum. And lastly, guys, make sure you subscribe. I do miss Sayyid Ali Radawi. I really do. He's not here today, but inshallah next week we will be back as usual. And listen, a last thing, and I know we mentioned it last week, but I'm just going to mention it again. We are expecting to do a big beautiful event in January, inshallah, for the wiladat of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and we're going to do something probably in London, something which you will all have the opportunity to attend, and something which will bring speakers, maybe from around the world, maybe from different areas, but a number of amazing speakers, some of your favorite podcast guests on After Maghrib, and bring them directly to a venue where you can come and engage with them one-to-one. So this is a really amazing opportunity. Maybe not one-to-one, but you can listen to them as well. So, all right, guys, we'll see you next week. Stay tuned, because that event, inshallah, we will release as soon as we have all the details finalized. But we'll see you next week. Take care. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.